Who knew that Podbean was trending on YouTube? My last video is me talking about Podbean sucking, and it's got more hits than many of my videos. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe. I'm trying to get to that 1,000 subscribers. Not really just so I can make money, but more so that YouTube doesn't get to keep all the money. They used to be if you were under 1,000 subscribers, they didn't put ads on your videos, but now they do. So that's just the way it is. But yeah, so I got Podbean because I've had my podcast on Anchor for quite some time, and Anchor has its good and bad things, but it's easy to use. They throw you up on all the different podcast venues. Pretty much now what I do is I put my YouTube onto the Anchor app, and they make it really easy. You can just download the video up there. And that was one of the things you can't do with Podbean. You can't just take a video and put it onto their app. Plus, like when you use your phone, it didn't put Podbean. A lot of times it wouldn't upload the episode. It would upload all the other stuff, and then you go on the website and be like, oh, I thought I uploaded that episode, and all it did was put the title in the description. And it was very confusing, difficult to work with, and they have this monetized thing that doesn't really work. And so I, after only a few weeks, realized that, I just need to get rid of it. Just clunky, didn't really work well. So I thought, well, I looked and I said, oh, they have a 7-day grace period. So I was like, I'm out the $100, which I probably shouldn't have spent $108 because I paid for a year, because I'd heard good reviews. So I figured, you know what, I'm just so tired of it. I just want to end it now. So I canceled the subscription, wrote him a note saying, about how I was not happy with the product. One of the other irritating things is just like when you're on your computer working on the site, you have to constantly log in. I've never been on a site that you have to log in and out so much. I mean, even financial sites don't ask you so much. Not really sure. I wrote them a note asking about that question. They never answered it. I asked them about other questions about why things weren't uploading. Never really got responses. It's kind of funny when I wrote that I was canceling my account and would love to get like a refund of some sort. I got an immediate email saying, sorry you're leaving. We're keeping your money. And I said, well, that's fine and dandy, I guess. I'll get my $108 out on bitching and complaining. And then when you know it, a few hours later, they said they're going to send me a refund. So it's nice that they're sending me the refund. I think they really should. Having a 7-day use period for something as difficult or complex as a podcast is kind of ridiculous. I think you need to use it for a little bit longer than that to really see what the features are like and see if you can actually use it to your benefit. One of the things is really, I thought with Podbean, I mean, I'm sure maybe it's other things. Anchor, they put it on Overcast, they put it on Apple, they put it on Amazon, they put it on everywhere. I mean, granted, now they're owned by Spotify, which is whatever. But I mean, that's where everybody's going now. I mean, guys I really like, Joe Rogan is on there. Bill Simmons is on there. One of the things I don't like the Spotify podcast app either. It's very clunky and difficult to use. It's not like Overcast where, it uploads the podcast I want to listen to, and then I can just be on my merry way. You've got to you upload like Joe Rogan stuff, but then when you play it, it forgets where you're at. It doesn't really organize it. It doesn't organize multiple. You can't have playlists like Overcast. You can have smart playlists. So I really don't like it at all either. But so I'm sticking with Anchor and change the title to You Hear That, Mr. Anderson. And so thank you guys for all watching and listening. And hopefully Anchor will improve their way they're doing things on there. And I'm trying to work on these YouTube videos as much as possible. As I talked about, last decade was about how far I could go. Then I had my fall almost a year ago where I couldn't do anything for 6-7 weeks. Ended up in the hospital for the first time in my life, congestive heart failure. Now I'm kind of back. I'm actually doing pretty well. And so this decade is more about how fast. It's not too fast, but I'm not really looking to do like the ultra scene as much. I may do an ultra here and there. I am signed up for 1 or 2 of them still this year, but I haven't signed up for anything new. I've got a half marathon coming up and a 25K and looking forward to that. So I'm trying to back off of just the miles and miles. I mean, I did 100-mile weeks for years and years. I think I almost did 5,000 miles a week for the entire 2010 to 2020 year, that whole decade. So I bought myself, and you can see it right here, my Proform. I looked at lots of different bikes. I almost bought a NordiTrack, and then I heard about Proform, which is owned by NordiTrack, and you can use the iFIT program, which I enjoy a lot, and it's like half the price. It was like $699 instead of $1,200. So I got the thing. And it was working, but when I assembled it, and anybody who knows me, I'm terrible at assembling things. I'm good on internet stuff, things where you just turn it off, shut it back on, try, do this, do that. But when you got to put something together in a specific way, I'm terrible. Thankfully, I found a video and put it together. But one of the things I didn't realize, so I'm riding it, but when I put it had this little box that on the back of it, I don't know why I'm showing it with my hands, but you put the batteries in and it's upside down. And I was like, man, the batteries, looks like it should be holding like 5 or 6 batteries, these AAA batteries. So a delicate balance. And so they're always slipping out and stuff. And I was really frustrated. I was thinking, man, how did I, why did they design it like this? It says made in China, and when I was a kid, I'm 57 now, you saw made in China or made in Japan, you knew it was a piece of junk. So I thought, and so I called up tech support. I got a hold of this nice young lady, and it was really nice. I know I bitch about this a lot, especially like DoorDash and Grubhub. They hire people who don't speak American English, and it's really difficult to figure out how to do things. So I talked to this nice young lady who spoke, English that both me and her understood. They had this kind of cool app, and I was able to show her a video, and it just told you to put batteries in, and I didn't realize somehow I actually got a AA battery machine to work with 3 AAAs. And so felt pretty dumb that I was putting AAA batteries into a AA battery box. So now I've got it all sealed up and I'll be riding my bike. And what I do is I do my 1.5 to 2 hour workout in the morning. I've been doing a lot of chugging, which is run a quarter, walk a quarter. In the afternoons, I'm trying to do 20, 30 minutes on the bike and then go out and do 20, 30 minutes. And of course, throwing in my kettlebell and CrossFit training. In fact, yesterday, I moved all the way up to a 35-pound bell and I did it in 5.5 minutes. So pretty soon I'll have to buy a 40-pound bell. My poor UPS guy. On to some endurance news, which is February 11, 2021. Greg Thornley, who is the race director of Western States, he sent out this tweet. It says, I had a runner ask me if we had secured permits for Western States. And he basically said, in a normal year, we don't have the signed permits until race week. That's the way it works with the U.S. Forest Service, the feds, the state, and Placer, the county. It's one of the many reasons that RDs are not good sleepers. And yeah, I didn't realize it, but I do have friends who put on races. And in fact, it's interesting. I just had someone reach out to me wanting to do a study about racing and race directors and kind of some of the issues that have been going on. But one of the things that's really crazy with Western States, they can only have a couple hundred people in the field, and that's because it runs through some national forest early on in the race, and so they're limited to basically how many people they had in the early years of the race, and at least they're allowed to let you have the race. Unlike Badwater is now you cannot finish on the top of Mount Whitney because you cannot have races in national forest. So it's kind of weird that, so they've got so many limited people. All these people are trying to run Western States because there's books about it, videos about it, all this kind of stuff. And so you've got thousands of people trying to get a couple hundred spots. And it's just crazy. And I've been battling back and forth on Twitter, kind of jokingly in a way. But one of the things I really think is crazy is that you've got so many people trying to do Western States that we need to limit how many people can apply and run the thing. And one of the big pet peeves I have is that you can qualify with 100K and get into the lottery. So you never even have to run 100 miles and you can sign up and try and get into Western States. Now, I gave up trying to do trail ultras, especially 100-mile races. I'm just not that much of a runner. Being a big guy, 250 pounds, 57 years old, especially at night, I'm tripping and falling. So after missing San Diego 100, probably almost a decade ago, by 5 minutes at mile 75, I quit doing it. But I finished 19 races over 100 miles or longer. I've crewed and paced races, the Western States, Badwater, Tahoe 100, Tahoe 200, San Diego 100, Angeles Crest, tons of Santa Barbara 100, tons of races. And so I've been there, and there's a huge difference between 100K and 100 miles. I mean, we just had Walmsley almost break the world record in 100K, and he was around 6 hours, whereas, he runs 100 miles in 15 hours. Big difference. And so I don't understand why Western States allows people to qualify for their lottery, which is greatly impacted. It takes now 6-7 years sometimes to get in, especially whenever there's a fire, or now we had COVID, rollovers, and it's just so crazy. But they say that, well, they like to see that, Cinderella story of someone qualifying with 100K and Western States is their first 100-mile race. And I'm like, well, everybody wants to do Boston, and Boston's not nearly as impacted as Western States, but you can't get into Boston by running a half marathon, so you shouldn't be able to get into Western States by running 100K. This weekend, there's a big 100K in Arizona, and tons of people are going to be out there getting their qualifier for the lottery. Got to do 17 hours, 16-minute pace. And so those people will qualify, and then the lottery will be even bigger impact. And I remember watching one podcast, and they're talking about the Western States dilemma is that, you get excited, you read a book, you're not much of a runner, maybe you never ran in your life, and then all of a sudden you're jumping into 100Ks when you're not really ready. And the reason you're doing that is so you can start picking up tickets for the lottery. So every time you lose, every year you get more tickets. It's like 2, 4, 8, or 16, something like that every year. And so then the problem is, what if you get picked? That's even worse, because now you're unprepared. You don't have any shot in the world of finishing Western States, and you're taking up a ticket for the race. The other thing that's really kind of interesting, and I've seen people do this, especially I remember for a while there, the Ironman guys really got into doing 100 milers. I remember being at San Diego 100 for a couple of years, and it was like the old times, a small little thing with a few people, ultra runners. And then one year it was the ultra people, not the ultra people, the Ironman people showed up, and they had these huge groups with all their friends and family, and they were there just to qualify for the Western States because it was a bucket list. You could tell with all the tattoos, everybody had their Ironman tattoos on them. And the problem with that is you've got a race where it's got such a limited amount of people can do it, and you're going to allow these people to come, do it, and leave. And so these people aren't really contributing to the community and to the scene. They're not volunteering at races. They're not crewing and pacing at racing. And so they just basically do Western States and are gone. And I just feel that with such a limited field, we need to really definitely change that. No disrespect to all the people out there who are going to try and qualify for the lottery. I get it. You want to run it. And good luck. And hopefully the people that really, really want to do the race will be rewarded when the lottery happens way back in December. And that was another issue they talked about in the podcast too, is that because so many people want to keep their tickets, and if you don't get a qualifier this year, you lose all those tickets. So you end up having to do the same races over and over and over, and it hurts up and coming races that can't get qualifiers. Speaking of well-known ultras, the Comrades Marathon, which is a 56-mile race in South Africa, they're not going to have it. It was scheduled in June, and I know that there were a few people that had the dilemma of, do I run Comrades or do I run Western States? Well, now they don't have to worry about that. Badwater is going to be happening so far, at least. 55 people who didn't get to run last year have decided to go and run this year, and that race, of course, is in July, and there's 45 spots available, and you can start applying for that. Badwater does have a rule that you got to at least finish 300-mile races or longer, and you got to fill out a resume, and you've got to prove that you've been part of the community, that you've crewed and paced at Badwater or the races, that you volunteered at races, and I think that's a much better model. It has some issues as well, but at least that's the way they work it at Badwater. So definitely, if you're looking to go to Badwater, fill out that application and see if you can get in. I was out there a couple years ago with my good friend Carla Kent and paced and crewed her to like her 7th or 8th overall finish. I think she's got 9 in a row finishes, of course not counting last year because they did not have the race. Besides race noise, I enjoy following some people on Twitter that are more talking about training and mindset and that type of stuff. Morgan Pearson says, lessons to younger self. You don't deserve to be good because you work hard at something. You work hard for the chance to be good. Really like that. Rick Bergman says, if you want to be the best, don't worry about beating the best, but being with the best. Surround yourself with people who admire. Performance is contagious. So are core values. And that's so true. That's why you're seeing, and I really like it, that here in America, we've got lots of training camps are getting together in Flagstaff and around the country and training together and building each other up and being successful. And of course, those training groups are also actually putting on quite a few races as well. Brad Studelberg, who I often quote, he says, imagine your goal is to win a gold medal or write a bestseller. Well, it's your ultimate end game. Then you might struggle to move forward regardless of the outcome, win or loss. But if your principle is mastery, that's something that lives on forever. And I talk about that with endurance sports. People think it's just kind of this mindless endeavor. But, I compare endurance sports to tennis or golf. You're always working on your technique, your training, and those kind of things. So just because you're just going forward, with purpose, there's still things that you definitely have to think about. Hal Hidgen wrote about one of the things that people definitely get confused about. It says, don't count on losing weight while training for a long-distance race. Cutting calories is not a good idea, as miles mount. Losing weight is not easy, and people differ greatly in their abilities to shed pounds. As your mileage climbs, you need to eat more food, not less. And I remember reading about, that's a Galen Rupp and other athletes. They have their racing weight, but then they have their training weight. So when they get close to race, they try and get as lean as they should. But during training, they keep on a few pounds just to stay healthy and become hydrated and full of nutrients, because you got to have something to train. Nick Willis says there are two types of coach-athlete relationships. One where the coach helps the athlete reach his or her goals, and one where the athlete helps the coach reach his or her goals. Probably a middle ground also, but I know which end of the spectrum the more healthy relationship is. And yeah, I saw that a lot when I was coaching, especially high school. There was a lot where it was all about the coach's goals. And of course, when I started my run camp in 2009, I definitely, enjoyed doing that. But then quickly I saw that there were people copying what I was doing, and they were more worrying about how they were as a coach and doing stuff like that. So it's very unfortunate. Training Peaks, which I use for my training, really enjoy it. In fact, I've been doing some really good 5Ks lately. It says if your motivation exceeds your perceived pain, then you will be able to continue. If your pain is stronger than your mind, you will give into the pain and let off the pace. And isn't that true? Definitely true. Hanson Run says, when it comes to training, the newest thing is exciting. It's fresh and attracts many. The tried and true is boring and monotonous, and it works. Long-term success comes from belief in established training philosophies and hard work. And that's why my saying is, stay healthy, be boring, not epic. To wrap things up, there's some stuff that's going to be on television or YouTube. Cheptegei, who of course broke the world record in the 5K in February last year, and 12:51 on the roads, and then he did 12:35 in August. He is going to be back in Monaco running that 5K. Be interesting to see how fast he goes. This is kind of good. It's a public service announcement. There is no NBC Sports Gold Track and Field Pass in 2021. I ended up breaking down and paying for the pass. Their coverage is terrible. They often leave in the middle of distance events or miss the finishes, but it's neither here nor there. But it sounds, one of the good things is that all that stuff is going to be on Peacock Premium for $4.99 a month, and I already own Peacock Premium because I just can't stand watching commercials anywhere. Kind of funny, I was talking to you guys about, how I want to get monetized on this channel, but then again, you can do what I do. I pay for YouTube Premium, so I don't have to see the commercials. And it says that Peacock Premium, which is owned by NBC, will have all the Diamond Leagues, cool, World Relays. I really want to look forward to doing that. World Under 21 and other events, some of the World Marathon events. Speaking of television, of course, I had to watch it on regular network TV, and my gosh, the commercials are terrible. But talking about Brady, I'm sure you've seen this on YouTube, but Brady throwing the Lombardi Trophy to another boat, not that shocking. One, the dude is the greatest person in history of throwing things for other people to catch, and he's handled more Lombardi Trophies than any other human. The physics of those things are second nature to him. Yeah, it was interesting that he is now won 7 titles, and the Patriots have won 6 and the Steelers have won 6. So he's won more than both those organizations. Speaking, this was kind of funny, kind of mean. It says NFL memes breaking. NFL announces all future Super Bowls will be held in Dallas in order to ensure no team ever gets a home field advantage again. Burn. Of course, when I was growing up in the 80s, the Dallas teams were great. Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman and all those guys. But it's not happening anymore. And to wrap this up, Rich Gonzalez, who I really enjoy following, Prep Cal Track, he says, breaking news, CIF-State reinstates a waiver from bylaws for the time being in all sports and football. This means student athletes can participate on both high school and club teams concurrently for the time being in all sports except for football. Wow, that's pretty amazing that they're going to do that. I know I ran into that issue quite a bit when I was coaching cross country at Bakersfield High. A lot of our athletes were playing club soccer and, of course, in track as well. So it's interesting to see here in California, at least. That's what's going on. So that's about it for Endurance News. Please subscribe. And as I always say, stay healthy, be boring, not epic.